So I'm here today to argue in favor of siting more wind farms in Vermont and against the moratorium on new wind farms. I strongly believe that wind energy needs to be a part of our energy supply system. Wind alone, we know, will not meet all of our energy needs.
Can you slow down?
Yeah,
Yes, I can.
I'm having a really hard time.
Okay.
Slow down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you one of my minutes.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, no ceding of minutes.
All right. Do I
Could you
start
back
with
up
zero?
a sentence and
Yeah,
start
I'll start at the beginning. So I'm here to argue in favor of siting more wind farms in Vermont and against the moratorium on new wind farms. I strongly believe that wind energy needs to be a part of our energy supply system. Wind alone, we know, will not meet all of our energy needs, but combined with solar, biomass, hydro, and other renewable sources, it can help us wean ourselves off the fossil and nuclear fuels that put our planet at risk. Yes, there are trade-offs with wind, just as there are with any energy production technology, but I feel in general the advantages of wind energy greatly outweigh the disadvantages, especially compared to conventional non-renewable sources of energy. I've heard some people argue against wind by saying that it doesn't significantly offset oil or other fossil fuels because it produces electricity. I would argue instead that wind and solar and other renewable sources of electricity can significantly replace fossil fuels that we currently use for both transportation and for heating water, for example. These are two significant energy uses in Vermont that currently rely heavily on fossil fuels, and there are others. To illustrate a direction I think we can and should be going, I'll describe my situation. I've got a 32 kilowatt PV system in at my property, a fixed array on my barn, and 5 Wallsun tractors. I also have a solar hot water system. I produce all my own electricity and supply 5 other households and part of the electricity used by a building that Governor Shumlin owns in Brattleboro. I use my excess electricity to supplement my solar hot water system, so I get 100% of my hot water from the sun. Probably most exciting, I have a 100% electric Nissan Leaf. In past years, I would have argued vehemently against using electricity because it was so often produced with fossil and nuclear fuels. But that picture has changed. Wind now can help us provide power not only for our typical uses of electricity, but also for fleets of electric cars. So we can address our transportation needs using electricity from the wind. Therefore, we should continue to site wind farms in Vermont so that they can help us reach our goal of 100% renewable energy in the not-too-distant future.
Thank you. So Sam Carlson is up next, and then it's going to be Sarah Dopp, John Lewandowski, and Stephen Marshall.
Thank you. I live in South Burlington. I'd just like to say, with respect to renewable energy, I'm not talking about other sorts of energy siting. I think we need to do it wherever and whenever we can here in Vermont, whether it's wind or solar or biomass. We have to go for all parts, possibilities of the solution, all pieces of the puzzle. We have to be thinking globally and acting locally and being part of the solution to large global issues that we face. And that's going to affect each one of us, and it's going to change our behavior. And I think we just have to accept that over the next 30 years, there's going to have to be huge behavioral change on the parts of everyone in this room if we are going to attain a sustainable planet. That behavioral change that's implied by that is far greater, I believe, than any negative impacts that one might imagine with respect to renewable energy. That said, I think people will be affected negatively by renewable energy, and the Siting Commission needs to be thinking very seriously about the compensatory mechanisms that are in place for people who are negatively affected, as well as the incentivizing mechanisms that are in place for either individuals or towns, so that they come forward and say, I want to be part of the solution because I see this not only as being part of the global solution, but because in my town or in my own specific property, there is an advantage to me to doing this, because it's serving that the state makes available to that town or the individual, because the state has an interest in that. So I think the Siting Commission needs to be thinking much more about the compensatory mechanisms for the people who are negatively affected, as well as the incentivizing mechanisms to get more people to come forward and say, I want to be part of it.